In previous videos in this series we've looked at people who've reached a level of fame in their particular field, but as time passed they've been forgotten about. This video is different. The person in question didn't set out to become famous, but raised himself to a level of success unprecedented for somebody in his background. Sometime in early 1766, a small 3-year-old child was taken from his village in Sierra Leone and brought back to England, where he was given as a gift to wealthy businessman Benjamin Molyneux on Molyneux House, Wolverhampton. The Molyneux originally hailed from a small village just outside Nottingham called Turton and made their money through ironworking and banking. It should be noted that the owning of slaves was effectively made illegal in 1772. However, it wasn't until 1807 that the Slave Trade Abolition Act was passed, and even then the Emancipation Act of 1833 before many slaves were freed, which makes the story of George Africanus all the more extraordinary. This painting by Philip Renagle shows a young George Africanus pictured with his master and the hounds. Upon the death of Benjamin Molyneux in 1772, his son George takes responsibility for the upbringing of a young servant. Although servant, George was educated by the Molyneux and became apprenticed to a brass founder and began to learn the trade. In 1784, at the age of 21, George was released by the Molyneux and sent away to find his way in the world. He chose Nottingham as his new home, presumably because of the Molyneux' connections with the city, and he must have passed through it several times in his lifetime. On the 3rd of August 1788, George married a local girl called Esther Shaw, believed to be white, at St Peter's Church in Nottingham. The marriage licence shows George as being a brass founder. His wife couldn't read or write and had to sign a name simply with a cross. We also know Esther was a fiery lady. In 1838 she was fined for assaulting a sweep, aged 9, with a brush. In 1793 they started an employment agency, the Africanus Register of Servants, operating from their home at 28 Chandler's Lane, which is now known as Victoria Street. At the same time, George would have carried on as a brass founder, and Esther is known to have run a milliner's. In 1816, at the times of the Luddite rebellions, watch and ward groups were formed to patrol the streets and protect people and property from rioting gangs. George's name can be seen on the 1816 register. On the 24th of October 1829, George bought 28 Chandler's Lane and several adjoining properties in Bulcher's Yard for £380, which in today's money is around £42,000. Being a freeholder gave George the ability to vote, something only 1 in 7 men had in this time. Sadly, their married life was full of sadness. Of the 7 children they had together, Elizabeth, Samuel, Sarah, Hannah, Anne, Samuel and George, only 1 lived into full adulthood. Daughter Hannah married a local watch and clockmaker named Samuel Cropper in 1825. However, George was unhappy with the marriage, and for many years Hannah and Samuel lived apart. When George finally passed, his last will and testament had a clause that prevented any monies being left to Hannah and being controlled by her husband. George passed away on the 19th of May 1834, aged 70, and was buried in St Mary's churchyard. Esther ran the business until she finally passed herself on the 12th of May 1853 and was buried next to him. As time passes, gravestones become lost as graveyards grow and change. It was only in 2003, after some extensive research, that the graves were finally located again. The green memorial plaque was erected on the railings of St Mary's churchyard in April 2003, along with a new gravestone. In October 2014, a blue memorial plaque was erected on the side of his former residence. In 2015, a Nottingham Express tram number 234 was unveiled with the name of George Africanus on the front. There's even a short play about his life, and a local beer was named after him. Investigations have traced the family tree of George Africanus, however there's nobody left nowadays bearing the Africanus name. George didn't set out to be a hero. He was born and raised in difficult times, and we know little about his early life and struggles, of which no doubt there were many. Yet he made a success of himself and became respected throughout the city. Some may say this is not the story of a hero, merely of somebody who realised, as many have done before and since, that the road to success is through education and hard work. Of the people throughout the city who've been remembered over time, Perhaps George John Scipio Africanus is one of the few who deserve a statue erected to his endurance, his success, and his memory.